Follow me. Aha! Watchtower database. Right where it should be. Just give me a few seconds here. And we're in. Pulling recent records. Well, hello, here's a familiar entry. DA1596-B Torin. Uh-huh. And what is this? DS1599-A. I do believe this record is yours. Oh yeah, definitely you. No doubt about that. And... Oh, well, that's not good. Well, I didn't read everything, but I think I got the gist of it all. And it seems we have ourselves a classic good news, bad news situation. Which do you want to hear first? The good news. There isn't any. Sorry, I lied. I thought it might soften the blow. Right, the bad news. Watchtower know about everything we've been doing. Like, everything. I don't know how they even learned some of this stuff. They know about Stardock, about the fleet you've built to counter their abduction attempts. They definitely know about a handful of their listening posts going quiet. Yeah, they know that was us. They know about Harper, Gren, Dr. Lane, even Babs. They know everything. Oh, hold on. There's more. They also know about your connection to Constellation, about the artifacts, and they know I'm Starborn. Yeah, I'm Starborn. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. It's just, well, there were reasons, important ones, and I'd imagine you have more than a few questions you'll want answering, and I'm more than willing to explain myself. But before we get to that, Watchtower. The database suggests they've been doing more than just watching us. They've been planning something. Something big. Something that a fleet can't protect us from. I don't know yet. Not fully. This is more than I thought we'd be dealing with. I need to get this database back. Try to pull more info from it. Listen, we definitely need to talk about many things, but it's going to have to wait just a little bit longer. I'm going to take this ship back to Stardock, see if Gren can help me with the database. Meet me at Stardock as soon as you can, and I'll answer everything, I promise. Or I suppose I could give you a ride back, if you'd prefer. Great. Take a seat and get comfortable. I'll arrange for someone to come pick up your ship. Once we're back at Stardock, I'll need just a little time to look over the database, so I hope you got a book to read or something. Uncovered plenty of interesting tidbits, and a few answers to some lingering questions. Speaking of, I think it's long past time you got some answers yourself. So, elephant in the room, me, and my status as Starborn. Not too sure how to start this, really. Any ideas? You weren't ready. You were and still are on the road to the Unity, but at that point, it was simply too soon for you to know. Besides, before I could even think about revealing anything, I needed to see what kind of person you were, what you were really like. And it turns out you were pretty much what I expected. In this universe? No. No one else knows I'm Starborn, just you. Oh, and I guess Watchtower as well. And now that I think about it, maybe also any other Starborn I've met who also just happened to have jumped to this universe. They'd know. But that's it. No one else. What? No, definitely not. I know that's how some Starborn do things, but not me. I'm not here for your artifacts. I'm here for other reasons. That's easy. I told you that when we first met. I want to do everything I can to keep you safe from Watchtower. But maybe you need context as to why I want to do that. The simple answer is, you saved my life. Not you, but another you. You see, in my previous universe, I was captured by Watchtower. There was no explanation, no trial, no jury, just indefinite incarceration and experimentation. And that's where I'd still be if another Starborn prisoner hadn't taken pity on me. Seemed like she'd been there for a long time. Yet, somehow, one day, she broke herself free. And instead of just running for it, she risked her life to free me too. Not sure, really. It was difficult to keep track of time. But it was long enough to grow out a beard, at least twice. If I had to guess, I'd say I was in their custody for at least 8 months. Most of the time, they just kept me locked in a containment chamber. They seemed to be able to suppress my Starborn powers while I was in there. But every so often, they'd bring me out for research. They'd force some sort of collar around my neck and escort me to their laboratory. I don't know if the experiments had a purpose to them or not, but they were almost always painful. That's a complicated question. Until the day we escaped, we'd never actually met in person before. In fact, the only vocal exchanges we ever had was hearing each other's screams during Watchtower's research sessions. That didn't stop us talking, though. We'd leave little notes for each other in the containment chambers they cycled us through. Honestly, I think those notes were the only thing that stopped me from losing all sense of hope. But I can say that you looked roughly the same, and had a great sense of humor. And when the cards were on the table, you risked it all just to help someone. It didn't take long to figure out we were being held on a star station, so the plan was simple. Commandeer a ship and get the hell out of there. At this point, Watchtower knew we'd escaped, so we had to fight to get to the docking bay. It was tough, but having Starborn powers sure helped. And then, just as we were about to board a ship, I turned around and I saw you, minus half your head. I have no idea what they shot you with, but there was nothing I could do. You were already gone. Yeah, sorry. But hey, if it's any consolation, it seemed fairly quick and painless. Although, strangely, your body did linger longer than usual. Normally, when Starborn are killed, they dissolve into a sort of glowing dust almost right away. But for some reason, whatever Watchtower shot you with seemed to delay that. Maybe some sort of anti-Starborn weapon? I don't know. Well, my retelling may have made it sound easy. However, it was anything but. There were Waves of Watchtower troops, robots, station defenses. Multiple times I thought, this is it. But you, I mean, the other you. Every obstacle that blocked our way, she'd just tear through it. I could tell how much it took out of her, but she wouldn't give up. If I had tried to escape by myself, there's no way I would have made it. Yeah, I escaped. But after that, no matter where I went or how much I tried to keep a low profile, Watchtower always managed to find me. It became clear there was nowhere I could hide, at least not in that universe. So I gathered the artifacts, constructed the artillery, and passed through the Unity. Ended up in the universe you and I are in right now. I had a chance for a do-over, to avoid being captured by Watchtower this time. But I realized there was someone who deserved that more than me. I know you're not technically the same person I met on that station, but I owe you one. That's why I tracked you down, brought you in on this whole fleet thing. I had to pay you back for saving me. I had to keep you safe. Don't mention it. Anyway, if there's anything you want to know about me, Starborn, or Unity, just ask, okay? I'll answer what I can. But back to the subject of Watchtower, the database. With Gren's help, I pulled a lot more info than we usually could. I know what they're planning now, and I'm not gonna lie, it's not good. Oh, did I not explain that? Okay, in my previous universe, I came across a bunch of scavengers, picking over the remains of a Watchtower ship. Although I didn't yet know what Watchtower was, I tailed the scavengers, took care of them, and went to investigate what it was they'd found. There were a few trinkets, shards of a breached hull, but the most interesting thing was a mostly intact computer, the database. Most of the data was fragmented, but before it erased itself, it was enough to learn about Watchtower, to learn they'd been keeping tabs on me. I knew where the database would be, because I'd found it before. Although this time, thanks to Gren's decryption program, we were able to learn a lot more. Yeah, I bet you do. Tell you what, once we're done talking about Watchtower, I'll be happy to answer anything you want to know. First off, Watchtower know what Starborn are. I mean, I always suspected as much, but now I know for sure. Only they call Starborn deviants? Charming. They consider us dangerous, a threat to mankind, even. That's why they've been trying to capture us. Only with us, their usual tactics aren't working, and they are well aware of it. All the hostile ships they've sent our way? Busy work to keep us occupied and laboring under the increasingly false impression that we're safe. Which turns out, we are not. So it seems, I mean, the clues were already there. They do have technology able to incapacitate and contain us. That could have been accidental, but that's not likely. I always suspected they were after me because I'm Starborn, and the database just confirmed it. I have no idea how much they know about Starborn, though. The info I unearthed was scant, at best. Watchtower like keeping their secrets. Well, apparently we're high-priority targets. Enough of a problem for Watchtower to be engineering a whole new technology just to capture us. Presumably it's some kind of weapon, but I couldn't uncover any real specifics. Only that a fleet won't offer any protection from it. I believe Watchtower's current game plan is to keep us occupied until this weapon is complete, and then hit us with everything they have. Well, I suppose that's because they are dangerous. At least some of them. You've experienced that firsthand. Powerful beings with strange, unexplained abilities. Who wouldn't be concerned? You know, now that I think about it, Watchtower might actually have a point. Although that certainly doesn't excuse everything they've done, and I'm not more willing to hand myself over to their tender care. Nope, not really. All I could find was that in response to our actions, Watchtower have been pouring a lot of resources into its development. It seems our fleet strategy worked a little too well, forced them to change tactics. But whatever this weapon is, they seem to believe a fleet won't be able to counter it. Watchtower knows more than I thought, but they don't know that we know that they know, which gives us an advantage, I think. By letting us build and maintain a fleet, Watchtower thinks they've kept us distracted. They'll think we're content to keep to our current status quo. So, I propose we instead do the unexpected. Instead of letting Watchtower come to us when they're good and ready, we go to them before they've had time to finish their new weapon, and we take them out of the picture. I won't lie, it will be dicey, but it's the only way I can see us not ending up in a containment cell for the rest of our lives. Hold on, I admire you being proactive, but we shouldn't rush this. We still have time. For the sake of secrecy, for now, I'm going to hold off on sharing the exact details of my take-out Watchtower plan until you think we're good to go. For the moment, I suggest you keep working on your fleet. Get as many ships as you can, outfitted with the best weapons, systems, and of course, skydrops. When you think we're ready, just let me know. In the meantime, business as usual. Now, let's get back to it, shall we? I'm in. But if there's a uniform, I draw the line at matching hats. Whatever I can do to help. Lead on, fearless leader. I'm right behind you. What's the mission? Now that you know I'm Starborn, I'd assume you have some questions about that. Well, I'll gladly share what I can. And if there's anything you asked me before, feel free to ask again. Now that you know the truth, I'll try not to be so evasive. I'm from Londinian. I think you already asked me about this, and I'm fairly sure I blew you off. Sorry about that. It's just... well, it's a rough subject for me, but maybe not for the reasons you might think. If you didn't know, Londinian is an abandoned colony on the planet Ptolemy 2. Some call it abandoned, but a more apt description would be destroyed. But that's not why it's a sore topic for me. No, not quite. So, I'm Starborn, right? Which means I can jump universes. Well, in my home universe, Londinian is just fine. Not abandoned, no destruction, everyone alive. My friends, my family. But in every other universe I've visited, Londinian is the way that you know it. And everyone I ever knew or cared about is dead. Or never existed. It's been a long time since I've seen any of them, and I just miss them, you know? Sorry, I didn't mean to bring the mood down. Let's talk about something else. Let's see, that would be an ambush in orbit around Leonis 3. Yeah, it was a small fleet of Watchtower ships. Thankfully, I saw them coming and got away. But technically speaking, while that was my first encounter, it wasn't my first exposure to Watchtower. For a few good months before, I kept getting the feeling of being watched. I noticed strange faces in crowds or ships that seemed to be tailing me. At first, I thought it was just other Starborn. They are known to be a bit stalkery, after all. But after I found that first Watchtower computer, their records showed it had been them who were shadowing me the whole time. So my first brush with Watchtower happened before I even realized. Alright, ask away. I'll do my best to answer. Starborn relationships can be unique, to say the least. They do and they don't. People see the strange things we do, but they usually just write it all off. They don't exactly forget, but they do seem to decide none of it's important enough to really think about. Starborn powers, floating rocks, and strange temples, they just seem to dismiss such things as unimportant anomalies. That said, once in a while you do find someone who notices and remembers. Keep an eye out for people like that. They could be potential allies. Or might be a future threat. Another Starborn in waiting. For most people, learning about the Unity and everything around it, assuming they understand what they're told, it tends to go one of three ways. They either find themselves targeted by Starborn, or, God forbid, Watchtower, start to lose their grip on reality, or get pulled onto a path they aren't ready for. I don't want Harper or Gren to have to deal with any of that. I care about them. I will tell them eventually, but only when I'm sure they can handle it. Right now just isn't that time. Alright, Starborn, Unity, what do you want to talk about? Sure, but just know I don't have all the answers. Alright, let's talk about me. Let's see. I can manipulate gravity, throw it around like a weapon. Packs a real punch, but if I'm not careful, the recoil can be a bitch. I can pop up a shield, which has saved my life more times than I care to admit. Can fire a beam of energy. What else? I've also picked up a few time-bending abilities. Sometimes I can slow it down, or even reverse it. Seems to take a lot out of me, though. Oh, and my latest party trick is teleportation. But it's unpredictable. Still kind of hit or miss with that one. I try to avoid it if I can. For me, it all started after finding an artifact floating out in a deserted corner of space. It was funny, almost like it was waiting there for me. Could tell it was a piece of something bigger, and for whatever reason I got it into my head that I needed to find more of them. So I started chasing every artifact I could find. Unfortunately, though, in my universe, Constellation had long been disbanded. But they did leave behind a lot of logs and dusty records to help my search, and slowly but surely, I found more artifacts. Sure, what topic did you have in mind? You want to ask? Then ask. Any particular topic, or... Sure. Although, still figuring a lot of it out myself. Yeah, I wish I had a clear answer, but it's not as simple as that. Unity is a place, or maybe a time, where reality's fabric is thinner, letting you reach out and touch something you probably weren't meant to. Embracing Unity grants tremendous power, but there is a cost. One that can be hard to appreciate until it's too late. I'd tell you more, but it's one of those things you have to experience yourself. Trust me, you'll understand once you're there. Yeah, I've encountered them. A couple times, actually. Or at least variations of them. I even fought the emissary once, and I lost. Badly. But they let me live. Not exactly sure why. but I wasn't about to stick around and ask. These days, I try my best to avoid either of them, along with any other Starborn who give themselves a grandiose title. Hard to say. From one angle, you could say it's just a handful. From another, you could argue there are infinite Starborn. All a matter of perspective, I suppose. Although it is odd how often we all seem to bump into each other. Maybe there's a kinda pull that drags multiple Starborn into the same universe, like a cosmic magnet. At a guess, I think there's more out there than we might realize. Sure, some Starborn like to stomp around, but I think a lot more like to keep things quiet. Starborn are folks who've stepped through the Unity and come out the other side changed. Though I'd say the process starts as early as the very first time you touch an artifact. That physical connection, it sparks something in you. And once that happens, you're on a path you can't just walk away from. A path that leads to a new understanding of the entire universe. And I suppose you get some sweet powers too, you know, if you're into that kind of thing. More than happy to. What's the subject matter? Right now? I'm not so sure. I suppose whatever you think is best. Holler if you need anything.